you got if you haven't got love.
Hello, lovely people of the internet, as I have dubbed thee. I am back finally after a long hiatus. I have been very unwell. I got the flu that everybody seems to have caught on this side of the world, and was taken out for a good week. I'm actually still sick. I got a lovely chest infection to finish it off, so I am antibiotic-ted up. But here we are. I couldn't stay away any longer because I missed you guys. And in my absence, whilst I was in bed, I have been happily crocheting. So today I'm going to share with you this 50s inspired bonnet, Pixie bonnet and mitten crochet set that I completed whilst ill in bed. And I'm finally getting to sport today. Huzzah! I did actually start this project last year with a true vintage pattern. That was very complicated. I had all of the wrong tools, the wrong wool. Well, I'm using acrylic, but yeah, everything was wrong because almost everything in the vintage pattern, was a US pattern, and I couldn't find the things in France, and the vintage terms no longer relate to the modern terms, and it was just a nightmare. So I tried again this year with this mitten pattern. I actually just found it on YouTube, so I will link down below the video that I used for this just very simple mitten pattern. And then I just looked at a photo, I will pop it on the screen here, of a little pixie bonnet that I really liked, and then I just literally made the pattern up. So I will show you today how I did that. I followed this fabulous and very easy to follow pattern from YouTube. The mittens looked suitably vintage to me. Very simple. It seemed like a project I could finish very quickly, which appealed to me as someone who was sick in bed. I wanted to aim for like a mitten a day or a mitten an evening. And it took me about 4 hours to finish each one. I am experienced in the sense that I've made quite a few pieces now. I don't have a large skill set in terms of different kinds of crochet stitches. So I know single crochet, double crochet, and then I will follow a pattern in order to be able to learn other stitches. So I have done other stitches, but I can't do them off by heart. Whereas this tutorial used pretty much slip stitches and single crochets. It did get me to double up the thread, which was great because it made these mittens extremely warm, which is very necessary. I wanted this set to be a set I could use when I go to Colmar, which is at the border of Germany and France. Very, very cold. We will be outside at Christmas markets, so I want to be toasty. So you can either use a very bulky wool for this, or you can double up a standard weight yarn and you will get the effect that I got. It was actually surprisingly easy to use the double thread. I thought that might make it hard to pull the stitches through, but it didn't at all. And I actually went on to use this same technique in the bonnet as well to make the hat part sturdier and warmer. I found this very cute, sparkly, like lurex style acrylic thread in a supermarket near Val's parents' house, and it was all on sale. They were just getting rid of a bunch of yarn. So I had that in red and this sort of ever so slightly grey white color that I just thought was so pretty and very 50s to have like a lurex sparkle to the finished product. And I thought it would be really cute to edge the entire thing in this red single crochet stitch that I will match on the bonnet as well. The mittens turned out so well. I think the big chunky cuff on it really gives it that vintage vibe that I was looking for, and will also work with the shorter cuff length of a lot of my 50s sweaters. Yeah, so in the end I was just really thrilled with how they turned out, and it was on to making the pixie bonnet. Here again is the image or images that I was basing my idea off of. Knowing that I only knew how to do a single double crochet or a single crochet, I decided to just stick with that. And I started off with the scarf, thinking that it would be easier to do the entirety of that and then attach the hood to it. And I was right. I was really pleased that my thought process for this, as someone who's never made their own crochet pattern before, actually came together. Shocked. So I did the single double crochet on the scarf, and I wanted it to have a ribbed effect facing downwards. So I did my rows lengthwise as opposed to making a long scarf this way, which would be what I would have done on other patterns that I've seen on the internet. And I worked just into a single loop of the stitch rather than going under the stitch or going through the hole in the stitch in order to create the ribbing effect, and it turned out just how I had hoped. And it is quite a short scarf because I liked that little sort of cropped scarf look. It gave a very vintage vibe, and I just liked the way it looked tied up underneath the bonnet. But obviously I wanted to keep my neck warm because I did look at patterns where it was just like a little bow that went under the chin, but I didn't want to make a giant long scarf because I didn't think I could knock that out before I got better and while I had the time to sit in bed and crochet. Once I got to the hood, I looked at the plethora of hood and snood tutorials on YouTube, but most of them were for a much bigger hood than what I was aiming for, which meant that the back of the head, the shape didn't change. It was just basically one big rectangle, and I knew that that would not work because of the back of my head, and if I have my hair in a ponytail or a bun at the back, as there's going to need to be space for that. As I could see in the pictures, the hood was very fitted to the head and curved, and then the little pixie top knot thing stuck out at the back, so I needed to figure out how I was going to make that work. So what I did is I measured the length from the middle base of my skull round to where I wanted the hood to end, just at the edge of my face, just so it barely covered my ear and showed a bit of my hair, because that seemed very vintage as well. Almost all the pictures showed the hairline. So once I had that measurement, I deducted that amount from the full length of the scarf. Then I split that final number in half, which gave me the length of each end of the scarf. So I measured that and put stitch markers. I tried this around my neck and I found that it meant that the hood would be coming too far under my chin. So I readjusted the stitch markers a little bit back so that the hood would finish at the start of my jawline. And I made sure to count the stitches in each section to make sure that everything was even. And so I'd know how many stitches I needed the width of my hood to be. So that became the length that I started with, and then I increased each row until it measured, and I just held it up to my head until it measured where my head stopped getting bigger this way on a diagonal, and from there I just did even rows all the way to the top. And it's by pulling the hood on and tightening it around my head that you get the pixie shape at the top. It just pokes out on its own. And again, I simply just did a single crochet all the way through on this using the double thread technique. So in the scarf, I just used a single thread so it was more malleable around my neck, but the hood, I wanted it to have more structure, so I worked with that double thread technique. I did also measure over my head from side to side to give me the approximate length to get the hood to go all the way over, but in the end, I just ended up playing this by ear. Then I slip stitched the entire back of the hood together, and I had no idea at this point whether my technique of increasing around the back of my head was going to work. I thought maybe I had done it wrong and I should have done a whole panel at the back and then put 2 seams in. But actually it turned out amazing. I was so pleased with the outcome of this, and it even looks really cute when it's not on the head. I just love it. It's got like Red Riding Hood vibes. Just, yes, it was exactly what I was looking for. Then same thing, I simply slip stitched the scarf onto the hood, making sure that the stitch that I was doing was on the inside so that I could turn everything out the right way afterwards and all of those seams would be hidden. And luckily, despite being the chunkier knit, it actually, like, the seams look very seamless. They don't have any gaps or holes or anything like that I have had previously when the edges just meet. Sometimes you can have sort of wonkiness in the seam if you're not a super experienced crocheter, as I am not. So this folding the seam out like you would a garment worked really well and gave me the effect that I was hoping for. There were multiple times where I had to undo this project, realizing that I had done the wrong thing. I made a major boo-boo, and here is me realizing just that I had marked the length of the stitches for where the hood would go with stitch markers, but I started doing the slip stitch from the middle one instead of the first one, and so I had to undo the whole lot and do it again. Luckily, obviously, that slip stitch didn't take very long because it wasn't a big section, but yeah. It's just the nature of crochet, guys, especially when you first start. Like, if you're not careful and you don't use your stitch markers correctly, you will lose your place and have to go back a long way to correct yourself. Then I simply went all the way around the edge of the hood and the scarf with a single crochet stitch, just to give it that edging. I thought it looked very delicate and sweet, and it just came together really, really nicely. I overall am very, very happy with how this project turned out. I hope this was clear enough for you guys to follow. If you need any clarification, ask me in the comments and I will pin the response to overall comments in a pinned comment at the top of the comments section. And once again, I have linked the mitten tutorial down below. Overall, this project took me around 4 hours per mitten and about 8 hours for the hood. So not a huge project. If I hadn't been sick in bed, I probably could have knocked this out in a week of evenings, just crocheting in front of the TV at night or listening to a podcast or something. So it is a very like beginner friendly project, especially seeing as these stitches are very, very simple and it's just very repetitive. You just have to make sure you count correctly. In order to get the height of the hood, I measured from my jawline on one side round to my jawline on the other side. But in the end, what I actually ended up doing was simply just holding it up to my head when I was a few rows away from that measurement. And I discovered that obviously I wanted to be tightening the hood to my head, and being an acrylic wool and crochet, it is quite stretchy. So I didn't end up doing as many rows or as many inches worth of rows as I thought I was going to. So I highly recommend to just keep going to the mirror and checking how the project looks on you, because it is very much going to depend on your head and how you want the fit to be for the final product. So that is the video, guys. I hope you liked it. If you would like to see more crocheting projects from me, I would love to share them. I'm actually in the middle of doing not my first attempt, but my first, what I hope is going to be full completed true vintage crochet project. It's looking very good. It is currently about 85% done. So hopefully the ending of it works and it fits and I'll be able to share it with you guys. I didn't film the process because I just wanted to actually be successful at a vintage crochet project first before sharing it with you. But if you would like to see some more, let me know down in the comments. Check out the links if you'd like to try this out yourself and you want to make the mittens as well. As always, you can like, comment, and subscribe to support my channel. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye!